Our guest this week, Glenn Healy, a Stanley Cup winning goaltender, an incredible analyst, and the head of the NHL's Alumni Association. Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show. Coming up! Welcome to the program. Today's guest is a Pickering native. He played 4 years at Western Michigan University. He was an NCAA tournament MVP, second team All-American. He started 496 games over 16 NHL seasons with the LA Kings, the Islanders, the Rangers, and the Leafs. He's a former analyst at TSN, Sportsnet, Hockey Night in Canada, former executive with the NHLPA, the president and executive director of the NHL Alumni Association right now. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the program. Glenn Healy. Glenn, good to have you here, my friend.
You know, nothing about bagpipes. Like, you could have thrown in something about bagpiping, Give me a little
Don't worry about
there.
it. We will get to the bagpipes.
One of the best openings I've seen on any podcast anywhere. That's a stunning bit of work you put in there. So
thank you. We can thank Vic for that work. Our producer, he's the man. He's the man. Okay, so growing up in Pickering, I have to ask you, what's your favorite hockey team growing up in Pickering?
Well, when I was 5, and I was in Pickering, about 70 feet from the nuclear reactors, probably would have had my pick a different house. Just saying. Nick Kiprio says the ball would never go on over the fence on one side, anyways, because that's the nuclear side. But when I was 5, I remember skating for the first time with Gordie House skates. I remember crying at kindergarten at Holy Redeemer, which is on Liverpool Road. Doesn't exist anymore. Condos, shocking. And I remember being allowed to stay up and watch the Leafs win the Stanley Cup. That's it for 5. And maybe I don't even remember anything from 5 to 10, but I remember that at 5 years old. And so my favorite team would have been the team that my dad forced me to watch, because when he came to Canada and he came here from Scotland, Toronto was the team to watch. And I thought I would stay up and watch Stanley Cups from now till forever. And this is just this is like Christmas, Easter. It happens every year. And I haven't seen it since. And I can collect my CPP now because I'm that old. So my favorite team back then would have been the Toronto Maple Leafs. And when I got to sign with them at the end of my career, to say that it was a dream come true would be an understatement. First time I put that sweater on was an emotional moment that I can, again, still recall to this day, thinking, wow, this is an incredible thing to get to play for the team that you watched when you were 5 and thought it would never end. Well, it did, as we all know.
Well, they did win 4 Stanley Cups between 62 and 67. And I remember when I was 5 years old, I remember the 62 win, right? So very, very little. But I do remember the 67 one quite well because I was 10 by then. But yeah, there was a time when it seemed like this was just going to happen every year or every other year. This is what the Leafs do. They win the Stanley Cups.
Yeah, and hey, there's a lot of players who've come through the door. When I played, we in New York, we went 53 years without winning a Stanley Cup, and we had 3 generations of Ranger fan that had not seen a championship. We had grandfathers, fathers, and sons. And when they went to Game 7 against Vancouver, you could see the sweaters of the 3 generations. You could see the sweater of a John Davidson or an Eddie Giacomin, and then you would see then the next wave. And then there was the Mike Richter sweater. And, for us, it was 3 generations of misery that we put to an end. And when I came to Toronto, to say that I wasn't thinking the same script, that we could put an end to 3 generations, now 4, of not seeing a championship with a lot of great players that have come to the door. No disrespect to them. We were close when I played there for the 4 years. We got to the semifinals a number of times. But it is a damn hard trophy to win. It's not easy. And there was a simple recipe. 32 teams would have it, and they'd be all doing it. But it will come, and I will get to take part in the parade as a bagpiper. Now, okay, not the same as being on a float, but not the same as getting your name on the trophy, but I'll make a hell of a lot of noise as we go down Yonge Street or wherever the parade route may be.
And I'll be marching right behind you, Hills. Don't worry about it. We want to talk
I'll
about
teach you the
a
drums,
little bit
Joe.
about
I'll
Glenn
teach you
Healy,
the drums.
the history.
Not hard.
Yeah, yeah. So, how did you become a goaltender?
So my very first year, I was playing with the Holy Redeemer Flyers, which was a hockey team that the age group was from 5 years old to 9. So to say that the 5-year-olds were overmatched would be an understatement, right? The 9-year-olds were clearly better. And it was the buzzer system. So you would get on the ice. You probably remember some of the old arenas,
Yeah,
McGregor
yeah.
Park, Heron Park. They didn't even have a roof, for goodness sakes, right? And so the buzzer would go off, and you jump on the ice. And I kind of would get close to the puck. And we got to go off now. I didn't quite touch the puck. And I would get back to the bench. And I'm back on again. But I never went off. But I'll just keep going. And so that first year, I never touched the puck one time. Just wasn't good enough. And my brother was a goaltender. He had moved up to a 10-year-old. And so the equipment was at the house. And my dad thought, in his infinite coaching wisdom, why get him to chase the puck? Just let the puck come to him. And at that point, I became a goaltender, partially because we had the equipment and partially because I stunk so bad that first year and never touched the puck. So it all came together at once for me.
Well, and you get to play the whole game. That's awesome. I mean, yeah, for sure. The buzzer doesn't go off for the goaltenders, right?
Yeah. And hey,
So,
played for multiple teams, by the way. So not only did I play the whole game, but I played the whole game in my jeans. Because instead of wearing like red socks and playing for the red team and then going to play for the blue team and then the yellow team, if you wore blue jeans, you could play for any team. You didn't need to change your socks. So I played the first couple of years in jeans. So that's quite the fashion statement too. Think about that one.
well, you're probably the coolest goaltender out there, no doubt about that. So how do you end up? Okay, so how did you end up in Western Michigan? You spent 4 years there. Um, how did you end up going to Western Michigan and not choosing, like, say, a major junior, like it's kind of like was the norm at the time?
Yeah, I think it was that birth defect I had called no talent. Yeah, I was growing up. I mean, look, we're from Pickering. I think we were like the Honeybees and the Marlies and all the bigger teams. And so yeah, I played for the fun of it. I played to learn life lessons. I played to learn what sacrifice was, to be a good teammate was, sharing, all the things that we want to teach our kids in life. And so when it got to the age of me potentially playing major junior, the big push in my house was, wouldn't it be unique to be the first educated Healy ever? Like that would be an accomplishment. So my parents pushed me to school. They wanted me to get a degree because they felt, look, if you learn, you earn, you'll be set through the rest of your life and your journey. And so I turned down some major junior opportunities, and one of them was in Peterborough with Mike Keenan as the coach. I could only do Mike Keenan one time as a coach, so twice would
Yeah.
have been catastrophic. Yeah. But I went to Western Michigan. They were a team that said you'll play every single game for 4 years, and ended up with a double major. And actually, that decision that I made way back when I was 16 or 17, and it's hard to make it at that age, you're very young. But that decision led to when I played in the NHL. If I didn't make it, I'm not going to say I didn't care because I did, but it didn't matter so much because I had plan B. And then if it didn't work out for 3 years, still had plan B. In 10 years, I still had plan B. Injuries, I still had plan B. And
Mhm.
so my degree really helped me to play a career with some longevity. And then that degree has followed me with all of my journey through life where I've had to make tough decisions and have relied on some of the stuff that I learned way back when we joke Western Michigan is the Harvard of the West. It really is a daycare center, and I learned some good lessons at daycare. So
But you obviously it was in retrospect it was the right decision. Is it something that you advise young players today? Is to go the educational route?
I think every player is different. Connor McDavid, I can remember meeting his dad at a local establishment, and he was wondering, my kid, we just want to make sure he makes it. I'm like, make it? Like, hello, make it? Okay. That'd be like, I just want to hope he gets to the Hall of Fame. Really? The Hall of Fame? Somebody started painting his plaque. So for certain guys, you're a shoe-in to play in the National Hockey League. You just hope that injuries don't get in your way, concussions don't take you down where the career isn't as long as you'd love it to be. But there are other players that journey is it's not as easy. And you look at the guys that desperately try to make it. Hey, we all have friends that would have done and given up everything to play one game in the NHL. So clearly, that is the best job I have ever had and will ever have. But it's not for all, and it is a tough thing to make. Every year at the podium, 7 names are bounced off, and then the next year it's 7 more and 7 more, and sometimes 8.
Yeah.
And there's a big pecking order of players that are coming up to fight for very few jobs in the National Hockey League. When I started, there was 16 teams, so there was even less than there is today, half the number of jobs. My first year, there was 340 players in the league. Last year, there was 1,077. So great, more families get jobs, more players get the opportunity, but it's a worldwide league now. They scout throughout the planet and they try to find the best players, and it's competitive as hell. So not for everybody, but it was for me. And I was a late bloomer. It took me a long time before I could actually figure things out, whether it be on the ice or off the ice. And so that time that it took me to develop, to get things in order, to become the player that I had to be, I needed that time. It was the right decision for me.
So you're Western Michigan, where you are in the school's Hall of Fame, I understand. That's pretty cool. So you
Hey, and by the way, for whatever reason, I thought my senior year I should sport a mustache. For anyone that's listening, never sport a mustache and have your picture go into the hall. You just don't quite look. You look like you're in a '70s porno. I'm just saying. So no mustache. Wish I'd shaved it. However, but I am, Joe. Yes, thank you.
Wow, 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 wow. Okay, so how did you get signed by the LA Kings? How did you go from Western Michigan to the Kings?
Well, I was an undrafted player. I wasn't drafted at any league, and so we were playing in the finals, and there happened to be a couple players that Los Angeles Kings had drafted, and Gary Galley was one of them. Dave Ellett was another, and so Rogie Vachon and Pat Quinn came to watch these two players play to see if they had a chance of making the NHL. And I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I had a game. One of those things where you go, really, when you shoot like 77 on the golf course and go,
Right.
is that really what I shot? That's me. I had one of those games, and it was about 70 saves. We won the game, and Rogie Vachon said, in his beautiful Goaltender Vachon accent, why are we signing big guys? Why don't we sign that guy? He's pretty good. And they signed me. And that was my opportunity where the prison door opened, where I had a chance to show that I could belong with a bunch of men in the best league in the world. And that opportunity, I seized it. And again, fate fell into play. And probably if I didn't have that game, I wouldn't have signed. And then that lesson my parents taught me years back, that go to school. If you learn, you can earn. I probably would have been working on Bay Street somewhere, but instead had an opportunity to have a long career.
Yeah, that worked out okay. Things have a way of working out, but don't they? I mean, it's pretty synchronistic that Rogie Vachon would be there. He's a goaltender. You have a 70 save percentage. The Kings are kind of open to saying new talent, and they say, let's sign that guy. So you ended up, making a debut at the Kings, having 4 seasons in LA. And we got video of you facing an Oilers team that was pretty good at the time. And here you are robbing a guy named Yari Curry. Hey, not easy to do. How scary were those teams?
Well, hey, we would fly up to Edmonton the day of the game, and we'd fly commercial. We wouldn't even fly charter. And so this team had so many Hall of Famers. Guy with the puck there, I don't know who that was. Is Gretzky guy? I don't know.
Heard of him.
At the end of the first period, I'm not going to lie to you. There were times when it was 6-0. And, we would actually leave the plane and just basically say, hey, keep the jet running. Like, we're going to get out of here as fast as we can. We had a playoff game at one point, and the glass broke behind the net. And the referee came over to tell, now this is a big save right here. Watch this one. And remember that
there
one.
You go. There you go.
That.
That's Gretzky.
We had the glass break behind the net, and it was a 9-2 score at the time. And the goal was to keep it under 10. That was the goal. Really lofty expectations. And the glass broke, and the referee came over and said, it's going to take a little bit to fix the glass. And Packwood said, would it be okay to keep the clock running? So, they were the best team that I ever played against. And some of it, we won a Stanley Cup in '94. And I think at that time, so take, years later, we still had 12 or 10 of their players in our system winning us a Stanley Cup. But the greatest player that I ever played with was Wayne. When, we got out of those yellow pants and the yellow sweater, I can remember meeting Bob McKenzie at a place in Pickering, and he said, "Well, what do you think of your new player you're going to get this week?" And I thought, "Bob, who are we getting?" He goes, "Oh, you're getting Wayne Gretzky." And I honestly, it was 9 a.m, and I thought Bob had been drinking profusely all night. He had to have getting Wayne Gretzky, and we got him. And the team went to a new color of sweater, to being the toast of the town, to where every celebrity in LA would come to the games, where we, with one player, became an instant threat and a 100-point team and beat that Oiler team that won the Cup the year before in that very first round. So what a difference one player made to a city, to a team, to a league, because at that point, then in comes Florida, in comes Tampa, in comes San Jose. The list goes, Phoenix, the list goes on and on, where one player's impact in the South made for such a big difference, but made a big difference for our team. But playing against the Oilers, if that isn't the definition of fear, I don't know what is. Because I certainly would not say a word the whole day thinking, please get through the first period. And that was the big joke. It's great when you play the Oilers. Everyone gets to play, even all the goalies.
All of them. Yeah.
All of
so
them.
now, you talk about, Gretzky coming over. I remember the front cover of Sports Illustrated, there's a shot of Gretzky with Magic Johnson. Great move, Gretzky, was a caption. And I had that magazine. It might still be kicking around somewhere. But such a change in the fortunes of the team, obviously. The way the Kings were, looked at from, the locals and everything else. Like, tell us about that night and day transformation for you guys.
Well, Meet the Kings used to be friends and family only. Like, if you found one fan, arguably, who had been there, probably more than likely wearing her wedding dress, because why would you only wear your wedding dress once? You might have been to that function. But so to Meet the Kings, when Wayne got there, was in Beverly Hills, and it was paparazzi. It was Neil Diamond. It was Paul Anka. It was Ronald Reagan. It was John Candy. It was Tom Hanks. Like, it was Sylvester Stallone. It goes on. Goldie Hawn. On and on with celebrities. And can recall, I drove a black Ford Escort back in the day with no air conditioning in LA. Bad move, everybody. Don't do that. But Paul Gay, Paul Fenton, and Lyle Fair and I, all on the team, driving together in this car. And as we pulled up, there was, your typical galleyway to get you in, and the barricades on either side, the fans, and the paparazzi. We stepped out of the car, and you could hear the and it slowly dissipated to nothing. And I could hear one of the photographers going, "Who are they?" Hey, I looked at the gentleman. I said, "We're on the team. Hello, what you're here for?" That particular night, Paul Anka and Neil Diamond both sang. And I'm thinking, like, this is just incredible. But celebrities everywhere. We had a game that year in the playoffs against Calgary. We were down, and Sylvester Stallone snuck into the room and tried to give us some big Rocky speech that, being down 3-1 is just like Rocky, on the ropes. This is where you want to be. Calgary's not where they want to be. And, it's Rocky, and you're on the ropes, and, rope a dope, and, and then you'll go out and you'll win. And he walked out, and I looked at Kelly Rudy and said, "I'd still rather be up 3-1. Just saying. Like, I'd rather be up 3-1. This Rocky stuff, I'm not buying." So, but yeah, quite an experience, and one I'll treasure, because it was such a night and day from the year before, where we could beat anybody up. We just couldn't beat you up on the scoreboard. And then we went from being able to beat you up on the scoreboard. And there's that level of confidence going in every game that you're going to win. It's just, when are you going to win by? The end of the first, halfway through? Is it going to go to overtime? Maybe, if the other team plays well. But that swagger was certainly something you loved.
Right. But, if you're down 3-1, you don't have, if you're up 3-1, you don't have to Sly Stallone walking in your dressing room. So that was a really, fortuitous moment
The,
for you.
the training camp that year was in Victoria, BC. And we had more media than the Stanley Cup final the year before that the Oilers had won. And I sat beside Wayne in that training camp, and I spent the entire training camp telling reporters to stop standing on my equipment because they'd stand on my goal pads, they'd get up higher with their camera, and I'm like, I got no respect here, none. So that's what I was security for Wayne, so I could have a little space to just undress. So memorable at best, Joe, for sure.
Well, after actually, there was a segment before Wayne showed up. It was called Ask a King. And we just happen to have a clip from that. Vic, can you roll that clip? This is pre-Gretzky, LA.
In Mesa, Arizona, he wants to ask Glenn Healy, what does your training during the season and the off-season consist of? So we got Glenn Healy in front of our cameras, and he answered the question.
Well, Dave, I'd be happy to answer your question. I think the goaltender conditioning is one of the most important aspects of their game. They're out there for 60 minutes. You never get a break. You can't come to the bench like other players and take a rest, so you have to be in top shape. One of the biggest things I do in the summertime to keep up with my reflexes is to play squash. It's similar to racquetball, only use a quicker ball and a longer racket. Also, I work on my aerobic capacity with running, and I have a skipping rope that's 10 pounds, and I swing that around a little bit to work on my muscular component, because as a goaltender, it's tough to do weights. They slow you down, and quickness is one of your best aspects of your game. You really have to work on that. During the season, it's essential that you stay in shape, do the skating with the team, take as many shots as you need in practice to stay sharp. Your conditioning is very important, and I work on it very hard. But after all, you have to have a lot of rest, and I like to have a little bit of fun also.
Like to have a little fun also. What are you thinking there? What are you thinking looking at that?
Here's what I'm thinking. How did that guy ever get on TV? That's the most boring interview I've ever seen or heard. Again, all lies. It's all lies. I apologize to you. I lied to you. All lies. Honestly, I can recall my first training camp with LA, and Marcel Dion refused to even stretch. He thought stretching was like, what, this is ridiculous. And so we got to that era, and we joked that, when the Russians came over, Sergei Pryakin in '87, and then, even that Canada Cup, they just wrecked it because it was fun in the summer. And then all of a sudden they came, we've got to work out. Like, we had a pretty good 6 months. Like, now it's a whole year of stuff. So, but yeah, that's a young guy who's very boring, and I don't know how he ever got on TV. So maybe that's why I'm off now.
I like the intervals where you go swallow and the target. You remind me of that John Candy character from
I like to have a little bit of fun as well. Okay, so you read between the lines there.
Oh, it's good though, man. So after LA, you moved on to the Islanders. How did that happen?
Wayne Gretzky, who came over, he went from Grant Fuhr to me. Okay. Now you talk about a step down in net. Okay. So it became very important to get a goalie. And Kelly Rudy was the goaltender that they picked up in a trade. And Kelly was well seasoned, so well established. And probably, our relationship was fantastic. We loved back and forth, going off each other. But at some point, I was kept as security in case there was an injury. But there was to be a player named later, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, back when the NHL just did things and you had no rights. And so I was that guy that made his way back to Long Island to fill in for Kelly, who at the time, the Islanders, we were completely rebuilding. We were out of our dynasty. We had 3 young defensemen that were all rookies. And we were not the Islander team of the 80s, but the new Islanders, so to speak. And so that was an opportunity for me to stay, have that playoff run. If something happened with Kelly, I was there to fill in. But I was on the move that year because they had their goaltender. And, Grant Fuhr to Kelly Rudy, Lamborghini, Ferrari, Grant Fuhr to Glenn Healy, that black Ford Escort with no air conditioning I drove, and the Lamborghini. So it was a big step down. But that's why I ended up at New York Islander. Here we go. Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe that's the way it was sort of looked at the time. But as it turned out, you did pretty damn good with the Islanders. Well, first I want to talk about the severed finger. You had a finger severed when you're playing with the Islanders. Were they able to
Yeah.
reattach it? Tell us about that.
Well, everyone watched that interview I just did about my fitness and decided to cut my finger off because I was like, torture that man. No, it was at the end of a practice. I always stick around after because I told you, conditioning, take as many shots as you can. That's what I do, the 10-pound skipping rope and all blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah.
sticking around practice, we were playing Montreal the next day, and Stevie Thomas had a great shot. Took a slap shot. It kind of dipped, but it was going in with a funny spin, and it hit my stick. And when pucks come in, they don't come in flat. They come in spinning, right, like a circular saw. That's just the way the puck rotates. And that puck underneath my glove, like a skill saw, whatever you want to call it, took the top of my finger off. Kind of knew I was in trouble, thought it would be stitches. And then when I got into the locker room to see what it was significant, so much so that I nearly passed out and threw up and did all of that. And the trainer, a gentleman by the name of Ed Taberski, a wonderful guy, but he actually went in and took the tip of the finger out. We put it into some saline, and off I went to New York University Hospital. And a great doctor there, Charles Malone, who's one of the best hand doctors at the time in the world, he sewed my finger back on. And it is disgusting, gross, and hope no one's eating, but that saved my career. And, I missed a bunch of time. And then I did come back late in that 92 season. We had, after the 10-day strike, we had 3 games in 3 days. I played all 3. Hadn't skated in 8 weeks. You could not get a redder faced. I looked like Barney the dinosaur. Hadn't worked out, hadn't trained, but I figured, well, what the heck? Why wait a year? Just get back in the net and play. But a scary situation, probably could have ended my career. But again, fate took over and the finger held up. It's a little shorter than most of my other ones. Not much feeling in it. So that's not the one I changed the converter with on the TV. But it's still on. So, and thank you, Steve Thomas. And every time I see Steve and we kind of approach each other, he kind of looks at me like this, like I'm Napoleon.
And
they
call him Stumpy, right? So
yeah, exactly. So we joke about it. Yeah. It's true. It's legend, but it's true. Yes.
Right.
Part of my finger in a cup, off to the hospital. Called my wife. No cell phones. Hey, my finger just got severed. Going to the hospital. Bye. What?
What?
Did you elaborate? Hey, 8 hours surgery and I'm fine. I'm good now.
Yeah. Probably
because I grew up by that Pickering nuclear reactor. Things just didn't stick around in the joints the way they should. But I'm not blaming them.
You talk about bouncing back that year. You rebounded nicely. And matter of fact, we have some video of you beating the Leafs handily right here. You had some, good, look like a guy who hasn't really been hurt, playing really well here. This is the end of that 92 season. And then, of course,
I think this was the game.
Left-handed shot?
That would have been Wendell there. But
Wendell Clark, yeah.
Eddie Olachek was trying to set a record for the most games with a point. Whatever the record was, they gave him a silver plaque before the game, and they wheeled out the player that he was going to beat the record that night. All he had to do was get a point on me, and I stopped his record. And Eddie and I are the best friends for many, many years. And every time I see him, I don't do the Steve Thomas thing, but I do the as like, where's your silver plaque, big boy? I guess you didn't beat the record that night, huh? But yeah, anytime you got to play in Maple Leaf Gardens, anytime you got to play in the Montreal Forum, anytime you got to play in Boston Garden, but particularly in Maple Leaf Gardens, Saturday night, it just was, as a kid, I went to one game as a kid. It was, I sat in the greens, was the California Golden Seals. Now I know why I got the tickets. Okay, I'm just letting you know. Okay, I figured that out now. Yeah, no one wanted to go to that game, but it was special to play there. And even, Wayne will tell you it was something different than a game in Vancouver at the PNE or a game in any other arena. It just had this mystique, and it's so bright, and everything was so clean, And so that was one of those games. So when those were penned in on your schedule, Maple Leaf Gardens, Saturday night, Hockey Night in Canada, trust me, you were doing everything you could to make sure that that was the game you were going to show up for. And on that particular night we did. And I'm sorry, Eddie, but I'll see if I got a silver plaque I can give you somewhere here, and we'll give you a presentation. But we shut him down that night. It was good.
I think the record was held by Sittler, if I'm not mistaken. So
yes,
92, 93. Islanders have that great, incredible playoff run. 18 playoff games you guys played, and you were the man, like Heels. You guys knocked out the Capitals. Then the two-time defending Stanley Cup champs from Pittsburgh. And I don't have to tell you, that wasn't a bad Penguins team. That has to be one of the bigger stunners in NHL playoff histories, would you say? I mean, it's right up there.
Well, I'm just looking at the one gentleman there, number 17. His name is Steve Junker. He played that game 7. I didn't know him before the game. I'd never met him. I met him before the game, and I've never seen him since. So you'd think we were a team with Yager, Francis, Lemieux. They had breezed through the season. They were a team that was a dynasty. They were so much better than we were. We had 3 rookies on defense. We had Malakoff, we had Kasparidis, and we had Dennis Vasky. We had Tom Curvers as our veteran. God rest in peace, Tommy. But just a good bunch of guys. Pat Flatley was our captain, so to speak. And, Pierre Turgeon didn't play at all in the series because Dale Hunter hit him about 4.5 minutes. He scored that one goal. Thought he had the puck, but he was actually at a concession stand, Dale. But he didn't have the puck. He was finished. He showered up. But so we went into that series, and honestly, we didn't think we could win. And Al Arbor sat a chair in the middle of the room, and he went to Pat Flatley, and he just asked Pat, could you tie one shift against Mario Lemieux? Just tie. Don't have to win it, tie it. Of course I can. And then he went to the Seagull, which is Ray Ferraro. Because he wasn't squawking, he was, you know what. So could you tie a shift against Mario Lemieux? Yes, I can. Then he sat and said, there we go, after he got through 10 guys. There's the first period. Now let's get to the second period. Let's do it again. And he broke it down to, and all we need to do then is win one shift in game 7 in overtime. Just win one shift, and we win. And sure enough, we get to game 7 in overtime, and we won one shift. And David Bullock scored that goal that was improbable and practical, and we knocked off Goliath. And hey, they were a better team. They were a dynasty, all Hall of Famers. Mario was Mario. He was magical. Yager was just starting out. He was a rookie. But boy, you could see he was going to have a long career. He's still playing now. But that team just came together, a bunch of young guys, and we believed. And I think that showed everybody around the league that, you know what, anything can happen in a 2-week war. And that year, Montreal Canadiens won the Stanley Cup. They actually had 2 parades. I don't know if you know this, but they had one parade when we beat Pittsburgh because they knew they didn't have to play them. And then they had their second when they won the Cups. We did the Canadiens a big favor by knocking off the champs. That's for sure. But it was again, a collective team effort of a bunch of guys that just believed that they could do it. And players stepped up, and they stepped out of their roles and into new roles. And we had the best mentor and coach in all of hockey ever in Al Arbor. And he's the guy who led the way and gave us the strategy. And I don't think you'll find a player who will have anything negative to say about that great man. He was just an incredible genius behind the bench, but even more than that, he made us great ambassadors, and he was like a father to all of
us. Not every goalie gets into a hockey fight, but you got into one with Bob Airy when you're facing the Penguins. What was happening here?
You know what? I'm 0 for 5 on my fights, and in this particular one, so you see Lemieux jumping in there, and Erie, and Bobby and I, we joke about this. I mean, I was throwing so many rights, I didn't even know who I was swinging at. And when it all was kind of said and done, and the dust had settled, and the referees had got in, and I think I threw 1,000 punches here, but I'm not sure. Somehow the exchange happened, and I ended up with Lemieux, and he just looked at me and goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Sorry." I don't know. I didn't know what else to say to him. But yeah, this was again. I can be hot-headed, My nickname in Toronto was Head Case Healy for a couple of reasons. I don't know why they gave me that nickname. I refuse to talk about it, but I might become that head case again. But yeah, I didn't do well in fights. Hey, when we were with the Kings, I mean, I would make my way, 200 feet down the ice, and I'd be just looking for, is the trainer out here? Can I grab somebody like a fan or something? I went down. I ended up with David Maley. I think he separated both my shoulders. Ron Hextall desperately tried to fight me. I don't know why. I think I'm a nice guy. I at least 6 occasions stood at center banging a stick, and I would be in the net going, nope, not coming there. Ooh, staying right here. Here we go. So, but hey, I'm not a fighter, and Bobby and I laugh about that one. And I'm telling you, that no kid will look at that and go, fighting one-on-one, here's what you do. Put your head down, swing as fast as you can, doesn't matter who you hit, what you hit, goal judge, anybody. And then when you wake up, you've got one of the greatest players in the game looking at you going, what are you doing? Sorry. Move on.
Well, not everybody has that kind of an experience, that's for sure. I want to talk about that rivalry you guys had with the Rangers, and we've actually got a video of you being run into by Alexei Kovalev. Obviously didn't make an effort to stop here. Bit of a cheap shot by Kovalev, would you say?
Oh, that's about as big a dive as you're going to ever get. Like, seriously. He hit me. He's about 180 pounds. I mean, I knew he wasn't going to shoot the puck. He was going to try to deke me 65 times. And it's in Madison Square Garden. If you're not trying to sell a call here, like, you're kidding me, right? So anyways, at the end of the day, Islanders hated the Rangers. Rangers hated the Islanders. There would always be those two fans in Madison Square Garden. One would wear number 19. The other one would wear number 40. And they'd go up to the blue shirts where everyone has a weapon. Everyone has a gun or a knife or something, right? And then they would turn back and it would be 1940. And they'd be chased out of the building. The putt and sucks call because of a hit that Dennis had back in the 70s. But there's no love lost between these two teams, none whatsoever. We beat them out that year, the playoffs. We ended up going to the playoffs to play that Pittsburgh team. And it's like 2 games left in the season. We won in overtime, and I went out as one of the stars, went out with no gloves on, and decided to give the fans the finger, which would have cost me a lot of money if, we had the rules the way they are now, where you just can't tell fans to beat it. And that summer, I ended up with the Rangers. And I'm thinking the last look that these Ranger fans had me was skating around center ice with my hands in the air, doing what? So hated rivalry. First game I ever played against the Rangers, I could hear this thumping noise. And I said to Pat Flatley, what's that noise? He said, it's the fans. They're in the building. Like, this is the biggest game you're going to play anytime you play that other team from across the bridge. And he was right. They both fan bases disliked each other. When Pat LaFontaine was an Islander and he got knocked out, the ambulance tried to take him out. They tried to flip the ambulance over. Like, who does that other than fans that love their team? So, but that's one of the best rivalries in all of hockey, and somehow I ended up on both teams, and I don't know how.
Probably one of the greatest in all of sports. By the way, did you was the finger the short one? Is that what the?
No, it was a longer one, so they could all see it. Yeah.
Not the stumpy shirt finger.
Oh my gosh, yes. Very proud daddy moment. I just hope that you don't have that on video, Joe. Please, you don't.
No.
Thank God. Way to go, Vic. You missed one.
Yeah. Okay, so here we are. Getting picked up by the Rangers. Obviously, they were impressed by that great playoff run you had because, you end up with blue shirts, the evil empire, really, if you will. But here's what you had to say about changing jerseys at the time. Vic,
right now, the fans still think I'm an Islander, so I get a few boos every now and then. We've hurt the team a little bit when I was with the Islanders, and they haven't forgiven me yet. So, it's tough for me because I go back to the island and I get booed. I go to the Rangers because I was an Islander and I get booed, and I'm booed in Pittsburgh and I'm booed in Washington.
Everywhere you go, Glenn Healy gets booed. What's that?
I got booed at home. It's amazing. It's everywhere I go. Are you seeing a trend? There's a trend here. So true, right? That was a weird summer. It was the summer of expansion, and they lost John Van Beesbrook in the expansion draft to Florida. And through the course of that expansion draft, I ended up getting picked up by Anaheim. I was a Mighty Duck, and I was in Ireland with a bunch of players having a good time after a great season. We had no cell phones, and it'd go from the Ducks. Then I went to Tampa, and Tampa could pick up one player in the expansion draft. Phil Esposito picked me up. Then he traded me to the Rangers. Neil Smith said I got to fill in for Van Beesbrook, and maybe this experienced guy who did what he did can help Mike Richter. So that journey happens, and I'm in Ireland not knowing any of this has happened. They're all trying to call to welcome me to the team, to tell me they're sad that I'm traded, and then to welcome me to the new team, tell me it's sad I had to trade you, and welcome me to the new team. And here's this a-hole in Ireland not even answering a single phone call from anybody because I had no idea I was even picked up anywhere until Pat Gladley called his mom, and they were having a chat, and she said, in her Irish tone, you're not going to believe it, Pat, but Glenn's a Ranger. And we couldn't believe it because those teams don't trade, they don't talk, they don't even look at each other. And sure enough, 10 days later, I basically called the Rangers and said, did something happen while I was gone? Yes. And so I was Benedict Arnold for leaving, even though I had no say in it. And I had a number of stops. And my name's still on the dressing room for the original Anaheim Mighty Duck. And I never got a sweater. And when they won the cup, they never got me a ring. So I'm disappointed with a lot of stuff, but I'm going to get over it.
Well, the Rangers didn't directly trade you. It was, through via Anaheim, and then it was via, Tampa. So, there you go. So, yeah there you go.
Yeah,
you moved a lot in a very short period of time. Yeah.
I did, yes.
Suitcase Smith, move over. 93, 94 Rangers. Here we go. Now, I know you kind of, you give Richter all the credit for it, but, if it wasn't for Glenn Healy backing Richter up, I don't know, because in 2 playoff games, you had a goals against average of .89 and a save percentage of .941. So, you were there. That was obviously helpful. That Rangers team, though.
Yeah, the very first day, we had training camp that year in London, England. If you had the Mustard Challenge Cup, and we played the Leafs. The Leafs went to the Final Four that year, lost LA, so they were a really good team. And I can recall the very, very first time that I stepped on the ice, very first time, I thought, and I said to my wife, this team could win the cup. This is that good. We were good with the Isle. We had a great coach, but this team is fast and experienced and skilled, and and we went to England and destroyed a Leaf team that was really, really good. And it took a little bit of time to get used to Mike Keenan. Hey, Guantanamo Bay has its privileges, but it's hard to get used to at the start.
Yeah.
So
right.
Once we kind of got things rolling, we were a President's Trophy team full of it. And we didn't have a goalie coach, so it was Ricky and I. And he was a complete, pure thoroughbred. And I would add the thinking element to it. So I would go through all the shooters. Matt Sundin loves backhand deke. Wendell Clark, he likes high glove. Go through Dougie Gilmore, 5-hole. I go through all of it so that he would have an idea, because he just played and was a Hall of Famer and so damn good. So we were yin and yang. We fed off each other. And we were also, mental coaches, because you needed to be with Mike. It was a challenge at times, and there were mutinies, and there was a whole bunch of people jumping off the ship, and we tried as a group to keep it all together. But that team was an exceptional team from wire to wire. But even then, with that team and all the championships, all the Stanley Cups, and the greatest leader in all of sport, we still had to take it right down to the wire into Game 7 against a good Vancouver team. And we had to take it right down to the wire against the New Jersey Devils into double overtime. Stefan Matteau to beat the Devils in Brodeur. So it was not easy to win, even with the bouquet of talent that we had on that group.
Matteau. And that was after, of course, that greatest leader of all time you're talking about guaranteed that Game 6 win against, Brodeur.
Yeah, well, we should expound a little bit on it. We woke up to and again, when they talk to you in the dressing room, what's he supposed to say? We can't win. It's over. I've got my golf clubs all polished up and we've got a vacation plan. No, yeah, we can win. Of course we can win. But the guy who writes the story, as you know, is not the guy who writes the headline. So the headline gets put out, "We will win." And we all woke up thinking, what did you just do? We enough pressure on us now, but look out. And so not only did he say we'll win, but he scored a hat trick in the third period to make sure we win. And so that was vintage mess. He was as great a leader and as great an athlete and arguably the best leader in any sport. And when the leader says we will win, and we did.
How important was Messier when it comes to dealing with Keenan? Is he like the go-between guy, or is he like how is he the guy who handles Keenan? What went on there?
Well, we were lucky. I mean, in a lot of ways, there were a number of guys on that team that could have been captains. Adam Graves could have been a captain. Craig McTavish was a captain with the Edmonton Oilers. He came over. Leadership bountiful, and so it was leadership by committee. But at the end of the day, when Captain Hook has to be spoken to, you'd like for there to be one sacrificial lamb that you kind of push in the door and say, "You go, you go talk to him." And so the thing about Mess is you can't refute what he says because it's true, and he just lived it, and he knows how to win. And Mike hadn't won. He might have won with those guys in the Canada Cup, but not at the level of lifting that trophy over your head. And Mark had done it 5 times and knew what the recipe was and knew what had to be said at what time, when he had to speak to the team, when he had to not speak to the team, when he had to speak to the coach. So, yes, he was like the biggest cog in the wheel when it came to making sure that that environment in the dressing room was one that everybody mattered. I don't care if you play one shift, you picked up towels like you were Benny Patrizzi in the locker room. Everybody mattered, and everyone was going to grab an oar. And that's why when you look at our Stanley Cup ring, there's 2 words on it that people go, what does that mean? And it says heave ho. And basically we would do that at the end of each stretch with Eddie Olachek. And it's grab an oar, guys. Heave ho. We're going to do this together. Mark was the biggest piece of the puzzle for us to make sure we didn't lose sight of that mission and that mission statement.
You talked about how hard it is to win that Stanley Cup. What was it like to finally get a chance to hoist it?
Well, it's a dream come true because they don't put your first name on the cup. They put your last name. And if you go back to your first question about starting hockey and all the sacrifices your parents make and your family had to make and your sister had to make so that she didn't get to go to her dance because Glenn needed new goalie pads or he needed new skates. All those sacrifices. Maybe not eating on certain nights because we had to buy a new stick. Your last name goes on it. So the whole family gets to celebrate in that Stanley Cup win. And when your name goes on it, it goes on for a little bit of time. It's called like forever. So you can't take that away. And I think every player dreams of making the NHL. Then they dream of staying. And once you've stayed and once you've made, there's only one thing to do, and that's to win a cup. And the players that get to win it, it's the best thing that they'll ever have happen next to having their first child or their second child or third child. But there's not many emotions in your world that are better than that. It is for every player that laces on their skates, left skate first or right skate first, that's your top of the mountain. That's your Kilimanjaro. You've made it when you win that. And so that was the way it was for me. Just a dream come true. And a kid from Pickering, Ontario, who grew up by 8 nuclear reactors. I never thought I'd be doing that. That's 35 pounds I've ever lifted.
Yeah, and that kid from Pickering decided he'd get this opportunity to play a little closer to home, finally getting a chance to play for the Leafs. And I'm sure you had the hopes of getting a chance to lift the Stanley Cup with the hometown team. But tell us about playing in Toronto. Was it a tough place to play?
No, it wasn't. And people talk about, the pressure is enormous. If the fans or the media is putting more pressure on you than you are putting on yourself to excel as an athlete, to be the player that you can be, then this is probably not the place where you're going to end a long drought and bring a Stanley Cup championship. I found the fans to be enjoyable in many ways. They loved you no matter good, bad, or indifferent. They looked at fourth liners like they were first liners on any other team in any other city. And they show up The guys that won those cups in the 60s, they built a culture in that arena that says you show up on a Saturday, a Wednesday, whatever day the game is, it's the toughest ticket to get in town. So having 20,000 fans packed every night and not playing in front of 3,500 in Arizona, that's a bad thing. I think that's a great thing. My only disappointment was not bringing a championship. If we had done that, and I'd done it in New York with a great group of guys, we had a great group of guys in Toronto, so close, but that would have been a complete dream come true. And but it's, again, hard to win, but Toronto is not a hard place to play. And is it tough to go out and have dinner? It's tough to go out anywhere and have dinner these days. The gig is just, it's a different game. It's their game now. But at the end of the day, having a bunch of fans that love you, having a city that is just hockey crazy about one particular team, there can't be a negative in that for any player ever. So New York, hey, they'll tell you you suck right on the street. Like, they will stop you and rip you to shreds. They have 4 newspapers that are hockey related, and they have another couple that are tabloid related, that are just looking to tear you down with what you do off the ice. We had one particular player who would visit some establishments with baseball players. And of course, the photographer would always take a picture of the baseball player. And this player on our team, he got his watch in that picture more times because he had his arm around him. So he's, yeah, that's me there. That's my watch. That's my watch. I was with him. Yeah. So the tabloids in New York are far more sensational than people saying you shoulda, coulda, woulda here. And if you don't think that you shoulda, coulda, woulda here, and it's Joe Tilley or Steve Simmons or Al Strachan who's being the voice of reason, go play somewhere else.
Well, yeah, it's certainly there's nothing wrong with being, part of a sport that people care about. I mean, really, really care about. I mean, like you said, you can go to a lot of different places, and some place in Arizona and in some college arena with 3,400 other fans and watch the team. And I don't think a player, if I'm a player, that's something that I want to attach myself to. But in addition to playing in Toronto and playing in the mecca of hockey, you also get a chance to do some acting. We have a clip from a spot you did with Jim Ralph. Play that, Vic.
How come everyone thinks goaltenders are weird, strange? I don't know. Could be the 100-mile-an-hour slap shots. Yeah, I guess. And then there's maybe the pressure, too. The pressure's killer. Whoa. Pressure's nuts. Goal mouth scrambles. Oh. You know what really bugs me? What? Those commercials on TV where they've got the goaltenders dressed in their full equipment standing on the street corner? Looking like idiots? Looking stupid. Those make me sick. They're awful. Awful. Ralphie, want to grab some lunch? Yeah, let's go.
There we go.
Yeah,
2 of the greatest goalies in Maple Leafs history right there.
Yeah,
2 of the funniest guys in Maple Leafs history right there. That's for sure.
Did I win a Gemini? I don't know. I'm not sure if I did. Probably not. Hey, Ralphie was one of the best. He's one of the funniest guys. Anyone on the banquet circuit, go watch Ralphie. He's an incredible source of humor and does a great job in the media side of things. And that was a really fun moment where the 2 of us were trying to make light of goalies are weird. The problem is goalies are weird. That's the problem. We were right.
Well, you brought up some good points there. Like, what is it? Wanting to face 100-mile-an-hour slap shot, and that's it's not something that everybody wants to do.
No, the only way I got through it was I did realize they were trying to miss me.
Right.
Trying to miss
true.
you. They want to score, so they're trying to miss you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it does hurt when you get in the way of some of them, for sure.
Yeah, but your job there is to try to get in the way. So anyway, we talked earlier about your Scottish heritage, and I'm sure folks are now aware that you used to play the bagpipes. If they listen to the early part of this program, we actually have some video of you playing the bagpipes. Well, with the Maple Leafs. Here we go.
Yeah,
Like, that is impressive.
Yeah, no, if you kept it going, you would have had me. This was the opening of Leafs TV. You would have had me piping him out when they went under. So, yeah, one of my finer moments there, piping in the station. It was the start of something in Toronto that was pretty cool. But hey, it's led all around the world for me. A couple of Paul McCartney concerts where we played Mulligan Tire.
Yes.
You know, Vimy Ridge, the D-Day Beaches, Carnegie Hall in New York. It has taken me all over the world doing something different than I would have ever done as an NHL player. So thoroughly love that. It's a great passion. Still do it today. And man, we've got a fun group of guys and girls that get together, playing on stage, put concerts together, and it's like you've taken your hockey team and now you've got your bagpipe team. And the bagpipe team, trust me, there's a lot more libation before the games than the hockey team. A lot more. So it does tend to lead to putting you astray at times. Let me say that. But it's a great passion, and I love it. And
it's pretty hard to
stage,
play hockey after a couple of pints, but I'm sure the bagpipes is probably a little bit different story, right?
Yeah, being on stage with Paul McCartney, I can say that's maybe the only time I got to play at the Air Canada Centre, because it was always Cujo. So I got to play at the Air Canada Centre. It had to be with one of the Beatles, but I got to play.
I mean, but what hockey player can say that he played with Paul McCartney?
Not many. Lundqvist will be next. You watch. You know, he always finds a way with that guitar to get up on stage with somebody, John McEnroe or, you know, ZZ Top or whatever. But he always finds a way. So he'll dupe me. He'll find a way to one up me. And I don't mind.
So after you leave hockey, your last games with the Leafs, you spent a number of years as an analyst for Hockey Night in Canada, TSN. We have some visit that, obviously. Did you enjoy that gig?
Well, you know, I think the thing, when I retired, I got bought out by the Leafs. It hit the news. You probably reported it first. And then Hockey Night called, and this was me getting into an argument with Mike Milbury. That was easy to do. All you had to say Mike, and then you were in an argument. But so I retired, and they called and they said, "Would you like to do it?" I said, "Well, I'll try it, but if I suck after 2 weeks, that's it. I'm done. I'm out." Right. And my very first game was with the great Don Whitman, and recall, you know, kind of in the booth in Edmonton, and you know, the crowds after the anthem going crazy, and Don pushes his mute button, and he looks at me. He goes, "Hey, stupid! You have to put your can on so Canada can hear you." I thought you could just hear me by me speaking, kind of like a Zoom call. No, you need that on. And first whistle, they put up the lines, if you remember. And so I started reading the lines, and then they were immediately brought down, like right away. I said, "Well, unless you were a speed reader, good luck with that. But don't worry, next whistle, we're going to waste more of your time. We'll put the other team's lines up." And that next day, every executive from Hockey Night called me and said, "You can't say that." I'm like, "Well, I said it. Like, what am I going to do?" But that started a journey, and then we took that from the booth. We were the first to go down between the benches. There's some studio analyst stuff, and yeah, it was a fun way of trying to bring the game closer to the fans. And so, did I think I would do it for that long? Did I think I'd get to do multiple Olympics? All of that, the answer is no, I didn't. But you know, one season flies into another, and before you know it, you've been doing it for a long time. But it was enjoyable. I got to work with the best people in all of hockey, both in the truck, in the booth. Some of the great play-by-play guys, the Bob Cole, the Jim Hustons, the Don Whitmans, just the list goes on and on. The Shirley Najaks, the Mitch Kersners, the guys that just are geniuses when it comes to putting a game on TV. Mark Askin, the list goes on. And I got to work with the best.
Hockey in Canada, the coverage is second to none. There's no doubt about that. After leaving the broadcast movement, well, you spent some time with the NHLPA. Tell us about your experience with that.
Well, the NHLPA and the NHL Alumni, they're really very similar. You know, the NHLPA, my job was simple there. How do I make tomorrow better than today for players when it comes to collective bargaining, when it comes to arbitration, when it comes to their journey on the ice, and making it the best journey you can possibly have, because it does end fast. And then with the NHL Alumni, it's the same journey. Is how do I make tomorrow better than today for a bunch of players that paved the way for those players to drive on those same roads. And that doesn't mean arbitration. That doesn't mean salary negotiation. That basically means it could be healthcare. It could be mental wellness. It could be getting your hip replaced. It could be maybe you need a coping mechanism and it's not healthy for your social slide. It could be you need structure in your day because as players, we all are about structure, and then that goes away as you retire as a player. Interconnectivity, making sure players don't fall through the cracks and have that social slide because the phone does stop ringing, as everybody knows that have fallen from grace from a great job. It gets pretty quiet pretty quick. And so all of those things, both jobs are very much the same, making tomorrow better than today for players. It just very distinctly different at what that better tomorrow looks like for current players versus alumni.
What are the biggest challenges for alumni, for the alumni? What are the biggest challenges you run into for those players?
Well, I think it's a very short career and it's a very long life. And what you want in that long life is as great a journey as you had in your hockey career. Because it is difficult to replace that chasm with a better job because there isn't a better one. It is very hard to replace that structure that we had in that job, to replace the purpose you have every day. I knew what my purpose was when I played in the NHL. Go win the game tonight. Not hard, right? Go have a great warm up and kick the ass of the other team. Now, when it comes to, not having that, what is your purpose? And everyone wants that. Everyone needs that. Everyone wants that second journey to be great. And for some players, it's easy. They go on, they become general managers, coaches, they do well in the financial world, they own car dealerships, they sell cars, do whatever that purpose and what drives them every day. But there are some that fall through the cracks, and that transition, because we all retire, all of us. I don't care if you're Sidney Crosby, I don't care if you're Wayne Gretzky, you're going to retire. It's that making sure that second journey is great, but making sure that transition is as easy as it can be. And so there's lots of programs that are available for transition. And there are lots of programs that are available to make sure that that player that falls through the cracks, and as we look at our journey, all of us as a triangle, the top of the triangle would be your acute intervention. Let's not get players to the top of that triangle where they have to go to rehab or they have an issue that is very difficult. Let's build out the base. Let's build up support. Let's build everything in their world to make sure that they never get to the top of the triangle. And that's our staff's job every day. Work for the players and make tomorrow better than today.
Have post-concussion syndrome problems been an issue for you guys?
Well, I think let's forget that word and just talk about functional integration. So if you have multiple concussive blows, there's a good chance that you're not going to be fully functionally integrated with your world. And that's just a fact. And we do have examples, all sports do, of many players that are like that. And then, what ends up happening on the far end of the spectrum is the players then, the world is not functionally integrated with them. And there's very few people that want to deal with some of those player issues. Well, that's where we deal with it head on. And I can honestly say, from what we have built with our social workers, we've had a number of them, we built with our chief medical officer, who's a leading neurosurgeon throughout the world. So if you're going to ask someone about that, he's the guy. Don't ask me. But my phone rings and I never have to say I'm sorry to a player or a spouse. We have help for everybody and anybody, and that help is in the hands of a professional. I can take the call, and I might be a good guy from Pickering, but I'm certainly not a professional in some matters that are of major significance. So we have people in place that handle that. But yes, the functional integration of multiple concussive blows, that is no doubt a problem. And it might, again, there's no medical documentation. Does it lead to early Alzheimer's, lead to early Parkinson's? I'm no doctor, but, if I can draw the lines to the dots, I go,
Yeah.
I can see this all down. But I'm not playing the blame game. I'm doing the hope and help game. That's what I'm doing. I'll let the other guys fight over the other stuff. That's how do I get hope and help in a family that needs that hope and help.
Right. I guess some things are beyond your pay grade, right, Hills? I want to, yeah. I want you to put your analyst hat back on for just a second here before we go, and analyze this current Maple Leafs team for us.
Well, I would say this. When you watch the team the past 2 years and you've looked at deficiencies within the lineup because they haven't, kick the ball across the line to get to even a fifth win yet, which would be important. Have they answered the questions and the deficiencies that they had in their lineup from last year? And if you can say that they have, and I know they've got Matthews, and I know they've got Marner and Tavares, I get that. But it's the deficiencies that have not allowed them to get past that first round. If the answer is yes, they addressed them, yes, they're in a better spot, then we have that hope that we'll get a fifth win and we'll get to a place we haven't been to in about 2 decades. And if the answer is no, then they got a lot of work to do. But we're one game in, and everybody is an armchair quarterback in the city, and that's what I love about this city. Is what's important is people care. They care about that Shield, their team, and their players. When they stop caring, then we got a problem. But have they addressed those issues? That's for another show.
We'll see. We'll see. Okay, so who wins the cup in your estimation?
Well, you got to think Colorado is the champ. So you're going to take it out of their dying hands? I know when we won it one time, the only focus I had was let's win it a second time because there's nothing better. So until someone takes that cup away from them and the skill level they have and the way they play, and speed and the physicality, and I don't even know if they won with a goalie. I don't know if they needed one to win that cup.
No.
And so for me, I look at them as they're the top dog. And any building they go in, any building, because of their reputation, because they're the champs, they probably have a 1-goal little cushion because people will be fearful of it because they're that good. But this league, coming out of 2005, was set to create, with a financial system, parity. And there is no question that parity exists in this league, where one year you could go to the Stanley Cup final and wear that red sweater from a couple 100 miles down the road in the 401 here, and the next year you don't even make the dance. It's 1 win a month. That's it. In or out. And that's it. So stay tuned. That's why we dress up 82 times a year. Stay tuned.
Well, thanks for this, Hills. It's been awesome. Been a pleasure having you on. Look forward to playing some small ball probably next summer now, I'm thinking, because it's getting a little cold out there for, us fair weather golfers.
Yeah, I'm a complete chicken. There's no question.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm not sitting in one of those little boatmobiles with the heater on it. Just here we go. Time to hit my next shot, and out you go now.
Yeah.
I'll wait for it to be next dummy. And yet the dummy that I am will go pay thousands of dollars to go to Scotland and play St. Andrews in a gale and a hailstorm and a windstorm and a snowstorm, and that'll all happen on the front 9. But I won't go to my local club when it's a wee bit cold out. Oh, you big chicken.
I know, but I get to go to Mexico soon, so that'll be fun. We'll golf there. If you happen to be in Mexico, come on out and I'll feed you around to golf. But otherwise, we'll see you next year, buddy. Thanks again, and thanks for doing this.
Love it. Thank you for having me, and keep up your great work.
All right. Thanks, Glenn. All right, more sports when we come back.
More Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show coming up after the break.
Sports
Guests on Joe Tilley Sports receive a gift certificate from Classica Imports. Top of the line imported men's clothing. Check out the Classica Essential Collection now. Go to shopclassica.com. Addiction Rehab Toronto, Toronto's #1 alcohol and drug treatment center, saving lives, reuniting families. The only treatment center in the province to offer medical detox, treatment, sober living, and lifetime aftercare all in one place. Our unique and specialized programs are designed to equip our clients with the tools to successfully lead a life of dignity, respect, and purpose. Let us help save your life or your loved one's life. Call today for more information or to facilitate an intervention. 1-855-787-2424 or visit addictionrehabtoronto.ca. Joe Tilley Sports is brought to you by COSA. Central Ontario Standardbred Association, providing a united voice for harness horse people racing at Ontario tracks. Check out your benefits today at COSAOnline.com and check out COSA TV on Facebook and YouTube for all the latest harness news and live action updates. Live racing year-round. Go to HPIBet.com for all your wagering options. Become a member today, and your first bet is free. That's HPIBet.com.
Do you know why that happened? You didn't fix your ball mark. The birds around here are very protective of the course, and when people don't take care of it, this is what happens. It's pretty simple. Just find your mark, fix it, and at least one other. Hey, look at the bright side. We're not up on the northern course. They've got bears and moose. Visit moregolf.ca today. You'll find everything a golfer could need, from balls, gloves, and clubs to custom fitting opportunities and training gear. Go to moregolf.ca and get $20 off your first purchase of $100 or more. Just enter the promo code JTSports. Yes, it's time for my COSA Swiss Pick of the Week. Last week I went to Summerside, PEI, where they returned to racing after Hurricane Fiona. I took Moonrider, who never had a shot, got parked outside behind some slower traffic. His boy Elroy, with Ken Murphy in the buggy on the rail, went right to the front, stayed there, cruising to victory and won 58-1. Murphy's third win on the night, trained by Phil Sizer. Burnout Hanover got up for second at 17-1. The 1-7 exactor returned $304.20. This week, we're back at Mohawk for Friday night's 8th race, a pace for fillies and mares. Let's go with the number 5 horse, Snow Shark, who came oh so close last time out. Travis Cullen drives for trainer Jody Cullen. I also like the 358 Exacta and Triactor. A reminder, the Breeders' Crown is coming to Woodbine Mohawk Park October 28th to 29th. 12 championship races over 2 incredible nights of racing, several $1 million in purses. For all the racing updates, visit COSA TV on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Go to HPIBet.com for your wagering options.
This is the Excellent Sports Adventure, brought to you by Lycom.
Well, the Maple Leafs were in Montreal for the season opener, and this was nuts. Cole Caulfield had a big night for the hometown Habs. Caulfield leads the rush, snaps his second of the night past Matt Murray, making his Leafs debut. Leafs down by 1 late. John Tavares gets it ahead for William Nylander. Nylander beats Jake Allen. That ties it up. But the Leafs get sloppy in their own zone. Jake Muzzin puts it right on the stick of Nick Suzuki to Josh Anderson, who scores with 19 ticks left as the Habs stun the Buds 4-3. Oh, no. It was a devastating setback for the Blue Jays. It was painful, but hey, they will bounce back. At the end of the day, it was still a good season, just a really bad night.
The Jays had to win this game to prolong their season, and it looked like they had it in the bag. They had an 8-1 lead in this game. Bullpen couldn't hold it. The ball fell into no man's land. You got to give the Mariners credit. They scrapped back to win this game. Seattle is moving on. The Jays are done. That comeback by the Mariners was next level.
Oh, it's tough seeing the Mariners celebrate like that. So what happens now? They need another starting pitcher for sure, some bullpen help. And GM Russ Atkins says, hey, he's pretty happy with the work of John Schneider.
Sat in here 5 days ago and felt very good about us making a deep run, and we're confident that we had a team to do it, and we didn't. So that was a disappointing outcome for us on Saturday. being in a position where you've won 92 games, you've had productive individual performances, and collectively in season in 162 been successful is a good starting point. And to the extent that we can be creative, we will always lean into that. All of our energy has been deployed towards winning and with John Schneider, and feel very confident about the job that he has done and did. I think it will be very difficult for us to find better than John Schneider, but out of respect for the organization, out of respect for John Schneider, I do want time to work through the process with him. Feel good about the group that's here, and do feel like we can complement it in a way that will take another step for us.
It's going to come down to the final 2 games of the season to decide top spot in the CFL East, but the Argos did get some help, looking to hold on to first place with the Lions in town. Argos on the move. Chad Kelly in for short yardage. Kelly scoots in for 6. The Lions rallied to take the lead, but here's McLeod. Bethel Thompson with quick drop. Puts up a beautiful ball for Tommy Heidel. The Guelph native makes a catch. 37-yard touchdown. Heidel's first in the CFL. Argos hang on to win it 23-20. In Montreal, Alouettes looking to keep pace. Last place, Red Blacks in town. Bob Dice's head coaching debut. Nick Arbuckle sees the blitz coming, but gets it away. Great pass for Darwin Adams. A big game led to an Ottawa touchdown. Caleb Evans for short yardage gets it in for the score. RB scores 17 in the second half to stun the Owls 24-18. The Argos say thanks. In Hamilton, Ticats try to keep their playoff hopes alive against the Rough Riders. Cats defense was outstanding. They sacked Cody Fajardo 7 times. They also had a couple of picks. Hamilton wins it 18-14. The Raptors are getting ready to wrap up their preseason slate. They were home to the Bulls. Pascal Siakam has been looking pretty awesome. Spicy P stays with it for the finish. Siakam at 18 points. OG Anunoby with the well-timed theft. OG is going to take it to the cup. Wraps by 10 at the break. DeMar DeRozan, long lead feed to spring Javonte Green. DeMar had 21 points, 8 assists, 8 rebounds. Delano Banton looks for the lane. Gonna throw it down, boom. But the Bulls take it 115-98. Wraps home to the Celtics Friday night in the preseason finale. Well, Canada rallied to earn a draw in their opener at the Women's Under-17 World Cup of Soccer. Annabelle Chukwu of Ottawa scored in the 67th minute to lift the Canadian side into a 1-1 draw with France. Coming off that nice win a couple of weeks ago, Canada's Mackenzie Hughes is off to a pretty good start at the Zozo Championship in Japan. Now it's time for our shot of the week.
God damn it.
4!
That's right behind the stick. He's going to be happy with that one. Today's environmental tip: reduce the electricity you use. Use energy-efficient light bulbs instead of regular light bulbs. They last longer, which will save you money. Make sure that you turn off the lights, the TV, and other appliances when you're not using them. And lower your air conditioning or heat settings when it's not necessary. Open your windows when fall arrives and wear more layers of clothing rather than cranking up the heat. Rycom, passionate people who turn complicated business problems into simplified technology solutions for public and private sector real estate, properties, portfolios, and enterprise customers. Optimize and future-proof smart buildings from the ground up. The latest in fault locating, base building network design, managed services, cybersecurity, data analytics. Our fault detection will support all smart strategies, define projected outcomes for capital planning, and reduce environmental impact. Rycom, smart protection solutions. At Rycom, we're building a path to a smart and environmentally friendly future.
And we want to thank all the folks who make this show possible. These are friends, trusted business associates, and all-around great folks. We highly recommend them all. A reminder that the show is available on iTunes, Spotify, Breaker, Radio Public, Google Podcast and Pocket Cast, as well as the Spanglish Network, Zingo TV, and Buzz TV Live. Also, if you really want to check out our YouTube channel, folks, these are past shows there, weekly sportscasts, all kinds of cool segments. Like and subscribe. It's all free. Thanks once again to Glenn Healy for being on the program. Great to see Glenn again. Thank you for watching. Join us next week when Justin Bohr drops by. We'll see you then.
Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show is brought to you by Brian Gribben Insurance Planning, helping you solidify your financial future.
At BGIP, what we do that's unique in the marketplace is we show people how to spend and enjoy their money in the early years of retirement without the fear of running out. Also, we're able to do this without you having to change financial advisors. Please look us up at bgip.ca today. Let's book a 30-minute phone call to see how we can bring value to you and your family in your planning.
Call Brian today for all your retirement needs. We did. 905-686-5678. Do you want to buy or sell a home? Could 31 years of real estate experience help you? Why not speak to an amazing team that loves to overpromise and overdeliver? Aldo has a tremendous team of experts on staff. They are committed to making your next real estate transaction smooth and comfortable. Call 416-GET-ALDO or visit getaldo.com. MNP, a leading Canadian national accounting, tax, and business accounting firm. MNP proudly serves and responds to the need of their clients in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. Through partner-led engagements, MNP provides a collaborative, cost-effective approach to do business and personal strategies to help people and organizations to succeed across the country and around the world. With local offices in Oshawa, Mississauga, Burlington, and more, their team is here to support you. Visit mnp.ca today to learn more. Hi, I'm Joe Tilley. This November, join me and my wife Penny Claire for a trip of a lifetime. 2 weeks in Egypt and Jordan. Imagine yourself riding a camel beside the Great Pyramids, cruising the Nile River, viewing the temples at Abu Simbel, exploring the desert at Wadi Rum, visiting the ancient city of Petra, and swimming in the world-renowned Dead Sea. Only $41.99 all-inclusive with direct flight from Toronto, free upgrade to 5-star hotels, and the cruise. Visit tripoppo.com and book today to get an extra $100 room bonus credit. Let's travel.